All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going deep into putting analysis, and we've got some exciting stuff to work with here.
Oh, yeah.
Using Quintic ball roll software, and get this, they just launched a video capture feature synchronized with the data.
That's huge.
I know, right? It's a game changer, and we're going to break down a session from a pudding expert.
Yeah,
You ready for this?
absolutely. Let's dive in.
So not only can you learn a ton about your own putting stroke from this, but get this, the putting expert actually makes their putting worse trying to improve.
Yeah, what's fascinating about this is that we actually get to see the data from a putting expert's own analysis of their stroke.
Right.
And even they were surprised
I love when that happens.
by what they found.
You'd think they'd have it all figured out, right?
Right.
But it just goes to show how complex putting really is.
Absolutely.
So spill the beans. What did the initial analysis reveal about this expert stroke?
So at first glance, things looked pretty good.
Okay.
The expert had a solid face angle at impact and consistent rotation. But there was a hidden issue lurking beneath the surface.
Oh.
The data showed that the expert's low point was 5.26 inches before impact.
Okay, hold on a sec.
Yeah.
For those of us who haven't spent hours staring at putting data, why is that low point so important?
You got it.
Like, why is that a big deal?
So imagine your putter swinging like a pendulum.
Okay.
The low point is the bottom of that arc, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, you want that low point to be right at impact.
Okay.
Hitting the ball as the putter is rising.
Gotcha.
It's all about creating an upward strike.
To get that ball rolling end over end.
Exactly. Nice and smooth.
Smooth.
But in this case, the expert was bottoming out way too early, which created a steep attack angle.
So almost like trying to scoop it up instead of...
Yeah, like you're trying to scoop the ball up instead of rolling it forward.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
So even though they were sinking putts, the expert's mechanics were, like, setting them up for inconsistency down the road.
Exactly. And the crazy part is, the expert was completely unaware of this flaw until they saw the data.
Wow.
This is where Quintic's new video capture feature comes in.
Oh, yeah.
So it syncs video footage of the stroke with the ball roll data, allowing for frame-by-frame analysis.
I mean, that's amazing because sometimes the numbers don't tell the whole story.
For sure.
Being able to see what's happening has got to be so much more impactful for golfers than just, like, staring at those cold, hard numbers.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And, it's really crucial for understanding why simply aiming for, let's say, a specific attack angle without considering the whole picture can actually be counterproductive.
Counterproductive, yeah.
So in this case, the expert's dynamic loft, which is the loft of the putter face at impact, was low, which was forcing that steep attack angle just to get the ball launching properly.
So they were, like, compensating for one issue by creating another?
Precisely.
And probably didn't even realize it.
Exactly.
Wow, okay, so we've identified the problem.
Yep.
Armed with this video evidence, the expert sets out to diagnose the root cause of that distant low point. So did they start with the usual suspects, like head movement or sway?
They quickly ruled those out.
Smart move.
Always good to eliminate the obvious first, right?
Absolutely, got to narrow it down.
Yeah, so the video revealed a subtle but significant drop in the expert's body during the backswing.
Interesting.
Almost like they were dipping down,
Dipping down, huh?
which caused the putter to be kept artificially low to the ground.
So it's almost like they were setting the putter too low from the start and then their body was, like, working overtime to compensate.
You got it.
Wow, so one seemingly small movement can throw everything off.
It's exactly.
Chain reaction.
It's like a chain reaction, yeah.
Crazy.
And to make up for that low putter position, the expert's left elbow was bending excessively and their left shoulder was rising through impact, forcing that steep attack angle just to get the ball on the right trajectory.
Okay, so we've identified the problem.
We have.
Time for the expert to try and fix it.
Right.
What did they try first?
They decided to focus on stabilizing their left shoulder, hoping to eliminate that unwanted rise.
Keep that shoulder steady.
Yes.
Everything else should fall into place, right?
You would think so. And the initial result actually looked promising.
Okay, good.
The attack angle did improve, and the low point moved closer to impact, now only 2 inches before impact.
Sounds like progress. Problem solved.
Not so fast.
No, there's always a twist.
There's always a twist.
Okay.
While those two parameters improved, other aspects of the expert's stroke were thrown off.
Like what?
The expert's dynamic loft became negative, meaning the putter face was delofted at impact.
Wait, negative loft. So the putter face is pointing down at impact.
Yes. This caused the ball to go left, and their hands started pushing forward excessively at impact trying to compensate for that negative loft.
Wow, I bet the expert was like pulling their hair out at this point.
Oh, I'm
They try to fix one thing and it causes this cascade of new problems.
Right.
It's a great example of how interconnected everything is in the putting stroke.
Absolutely.
And why it's so important to consider the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So what's the lesson here? Don't get too hung up on achieving the perfect number for any single putting parameter.
Exactly.
You have to look at all the data points and understand how they influence each other.
It's all connected.
In this case, the expert's initial good numbers in face angle and rotation were actually disrupted by trying to fix the attack angle and low point.
Right.
Sometimes you might need to prioritize different aspects of your stroke, even if it means accepting a slightly less than ideal attack angle.
Absolutely.
It's like focusing on consistent ball speed over a textbook perfect attack angle.
Precisely.
Okay, so before we move on to the expert's next adjustment, let's talk about the software's color coding system.
Right.
I noticed it was highlighting data points that were outside the desired ranges.
Right.
Seems helpful, right? I mean,
it can be.
I like knowing what's good and bad at a glance.
It can be, but sometimes those red numbers can make you overthink things.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Start chasing after green numbers without really understanding what they mean.
Oh,
You know,
okay, yeah.
the beauty of this software is that you can turn the color coding off
Interesting. Why would you want to do that?
to eliminate potential psychological bias.
Oh.
By removing the colors, you can focus purely on the numerical values and decide what truly matters for your individual putting stroke.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this deep dive is going to help me unlock my putting potential.
I think so.
Now I'm dying to hear what happens when the expert tackles ball position in their next attempt to refine their stroke.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. So remember how the expert discovered that their low point was, like, way off?
Yeah, 5 inches before impact, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was pretty far back.
Crazy.
Well, they started to think that maybe their ball position was playing a role.
Oh, interesting, because it seems like something as simple as ball position could have a ripple effect on the entire stroke, right?
Exactly, and that's exactly what they found.
So did moving the ball back solve all the experts' problems?
It helped, but, there's always a but.
There's always a but.
It did lead to a much better sternum position and left eye alignment over the ball.
Okay.
But the expert's hand action became even more exaggerated,
Oh, no.
trying to compensate for that change in ball position.
So like overcompensating.
Overcompensating, yes.
Okay.
It created a significant shaft angle change through impact.
How significant are we talking?
Like a 2-degree difference from address to impact.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
This actually highlighted a common issue that golfers face.
What's that?
It's their stroke adapting, sometimes poorly, to an ill-fitted putter.
Oh, interesting.
The expert had been playing with a putter that wasn't quite right for them, and their body had subconsciously learned to compensate.
So it's almost like their body was working against the putter instead of with it.
Exactly. This is why a proper putter fitting is so crucial.
I've heard that.
And it's also a reminder that we can't view these putting parameters in isolation. Yeah.
You can't just focus on, let's say, attack angle or low point.
Yeah.
Without considering how it affects everything else.
Right. It's all connected.
It's all connected.
So what you're saying is that by focusing on 1 or 2 putting parameters in isolation, it could actually hurt my overall performance.
It's possible.
I might be better off prioritizing other aspects of my stroke, even if it means accepting a slightly less than ideal attack angle.
You're catching on.
Okay.
It's about finding the right balance for your individual stroke.
Got it.
So, for example, while the expert was initially hung up on attack angle, they had pretty good numbers for face angle and rotation.
Which are important for starting the ball on the intended line, right?
Exactly. Those are important for starting the ball in the intended line.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of obsessing over that perfect attack angle, they should focus on getting consistent ball speed.
That's a really good point, because you can have the perfect attack angle, but if you're hitting some putts soft and some putts hard, you're not going to be very successful.
Exactly.
Consistency is king.
Consistency is king.
Okay, cool.
And remember that new video capture feature we talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah, the game changer.
Well, it's so valuable for diagnosing these kinds of issues.
I bet.
Being able to actually see yourself putting frame by frame, synchronized with the data, really brings those numbers to life.
Yeah.
It makes it much easier to understand.
For sure, because just looking at the numbers, sometimes it's hard to, visualize what's happening.
Absolutely.
But with the video, it's like, oh, okay, I see it now.
Exactly.
So, speaking of understanding the data, I'm curious,
Yeah.
What did the expert do once they realized that focusing solely on their attack angle was backfiring?
They took a step back and decided to, like, reevaluate their priorities.
Okay.
Remember how their initial putting stroke had great face angle and rotation, but a less than ideal low point and attack angle?
Yeah, it seemed like they were making decent putts, but with some underlying mechanical issues.
Right. And then by trying to fix the low point and attack angle, they ended up messing up their face angle
Right.
and created those hand action issues.
Oh, right, yeah.
So they kind of had to go back to the drawing board and figure out which data points were most important for their overall putting performance.
Yeah.
That's where the ability to turn off the color coding comes in handy.
Oh,
It allows you to look at the data more objectively
without being influenced by those red flags.
without being influenced by those red flags. Exactly.
Okay.
So by removing the emotional element of the color coding,
Mm-hmm.
the expert could focus solely on the numerical values
Okay.
and identify which data points were truly essential for their game.
So what did they land on? What did they decide to focus on?
They decided to prioritize achieving consistent ball speed,
Okay.
knowing that even though their initial attack angle and low point weren't textbook perfect,
Yeah.
their other parameters were pretty solid.
It's fascinating how this whole process really underscores that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to putting.
Exactly. It's very individual.
What matters most is finding what works best for you and using the data to make informed decisions about your practice and equipment.
I couldn't agree more. That's the beauty of data analysis in golf.
Yeah.
It's not just about hitting perfect numbers.
Right.
It's about understanding what those numbers mean for you
Yeah.
and how they relate to your unique swing.
Yeah, it's about taking ownership of your game,
Absolutely.
becoming a more informed and effective putter.
Well said.
Well, this deep dive has given me so much to think out in terms of my own putting.
Good.
I'm already itching to get out on the green and start analyzing my stroke. Man, this deep dive into putting analysis has been like a total eye-opener.
It's amazing what you can learn from just one putting session, huh?
I know, right? It seems like there's always something new to discover about this crazy game.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is how interconnected everything is in the putting stroke.
Yeah, for sure. It's not just about one thing. It's like
Yeah.
a delicate ecosystem.
It is.
You tweak one element and boom,
Yeah.
you could have ripple effects throughout the entire system.
I'm still kind of mind blown by how the expert actually made their putting worse while trying to improve,
Right?
certain aspects.
Yeah, it just shows how counterintuitive putting can be.
It really does.
Sometimes what feels right can actually be hurting us.
It's so true.
That's why I think, data-driven analysis is so valuable.
It
It
is.
reveals those hidden truths that our subjective feel might miss.
Yeah, we think we're making a good stroke, and then the data's like, nope.
Exactly.
Then we're like, oh, okay.
It can be humbling, but it's ultimately empowering
Absolutely.
because that data allows us to make more informed decisions about our game.
So true. So true.
It's not about achieving, some arbitrary ideal. It's about understanding our own unique tendencies
Yes.
and optimizing our technique accordingly.
I love that. All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yep.
what's like the one big takeaway?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I know there are a lot, but if you had to choose just one.
Okay. I want to challenge the listener
Okay.
to think critically about their own putting data.
Okay.
Don't just accept those numbers at face value, right?
Dig deeper.
Ask yourself, how would I prioritize the different putting data points to improve my performance?
Yeah, what are my strengths?
Exactly. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses?
Yeah.
How can you use the data to tailor your practice
Yes.
and equipment to fit your unique putting stroke?
It's a great question because, it's so easy to get caught up in chasing after those like perfect numbers.
Oh, yeah.
But as we've seen today,
Right.
sometimes the most impactful improvements come from focusing on those like less glamorous
Right.
foundational aspects of your stroke.
It's the fundamentals.
Consistent ball speed.
Yes, solid contact.
A stable
A
base.
stable base.
Yeah.
It's like building a house, right? A house with a fancy roof, but shaky foundations.
Not gonna last.
It's not going to last.
Yeah, the same goes for putting.
Yeah, you need that solid base to build upon.
Love that analogy.
You got it.
So to all our listeners out there, don't be afraid to get a little geeky with your putting data.
Yes.
Explore it,
Analyze it.
analyze it, and use it to unlock your full potential on the greens.
Absolutely. The greens are waiting.
All right, that's it for this deep dive.
It was a good one.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration into the world of data-driven performance.
Looking forward to it.
See you later.